Welcome to the podcast about venture capital, where investors and founders alike can learn how VCs make decisions and reach conviction. Your host is Nick Moran, and this is The Full Ratchet.
Welcome back to TFR for another edition of Investor Stories. On this segment, the experts talk about a startup that failed and the causes of that failure. Here's the segment called Mortems. On this special segment, we have Ben Sun of Primary Venture Partners. Ben, can you tell us a story about a portfolio company that failed and why it failed?
Yeah, on a company that's failed and why, we looked at both luggage companies, Raiden and Away. They were raising money around the same time, looked at both, decided to go with Raiden because the founder there, Josh Adashkin, his family was like very deep into the luggage business. He understood the luggage business incredibly well. And we ultimately thought he was going to build the better product. And I would tell you that when both of them launched, which is around the same time, the V1s of the product, Raiden's product was better. And I've talked to even some Away investors are like, yeah, definitely. But I think Josh got probably a little too precious about, hey, let me find the right investor and raise the round and how much dilution and all of that, versus a way, kind of really said, let me raise capital, be faster in iterating on product, but even more importantly, start marketing aggressively and build, customer mind share. And because they raised capital faster and then iterated and especially did marketing more effectively, they pulled ahead. And when you kind of pull ahead as the number one, investors then have a hard time investing in number two. And I think that's definitely a lesson learned, is that kind of founder mentality of, yeah, they may develop a better product, but if they're not obsessed about the distribution game and part of that raising capital as part of that distribution game and being really effective about that, they can be severely handicapped. So I'd say that's probably a really good kind of lesson learned on, make sure as you really understand the founder mentality that they're thinking beyond just great product.
On today's special segment, we have Ruth Foxe Blader of Anthemis. Ruth, can you tell us a story about a portfolio company that failed and why it failed?
So I think that startups fail for two reasons. It's not the Tolstoy, all unhappy families are different. I think that either it's the team or it's timing. And the team problem I have done before, and it's usually because you love the idea and you're kind of thesis-focused investor and you believe that something really important is going to happen. And it's like this project that I always wanted to work on, and here it is. And it's not the right people. And you just aren't critical enough about the people because you're interested in the project. And that, usually leads to bitter failure. And then I think that there's the second type of company is just poor timing. I remember when I first got into working with startups, I met like 1 billion people who told me that they invented online payments before PayPal and blah, 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 blah. But it's true. It's a big part of this is timing. And that's why investors have fantastic results backing teams that they backed previously whose company failed, because it wasn't the team's fault. It was just some exogenous event or crappy timing. COVID, I think, is going to produce a lot of those types of opportunities, actually, where you see how a team behaves in a hard period. And even if they don't make it through, you'd back them again. So those are my two, let's say, broad examples of kind of failure.
On this special segment, we have Manan Mehta of Unshackled Ventures. Manan, tell us a story about a portfolio company that failed and why it failed.
So we've had 12 companies out of the 61 that have failed to date. And one of the most common reasons, which is interesting, is founder separations. So we've had multiple situations where, founders were at odds. They were struggling to get to product market fit or even problem product fit. And one of the founders had a situation at home or in their families where they had to, jump ship and get paid a reasonable salary. And in those cases, when one founder left, the other founder sustained for their 6 to 9, 12 months, but they also burned out. They also realized that, maybe the timing wasn't right for them. And so we've had a few of those come back later. We've evaluated them, but that's the most common reason, right? It's because you're investing so early, it typically happens before your first customers underwrite you.
Have you noticed any themes across the portfolio when it comes to single founder versus two founder or three or more businesses?
We've seen a lot more success in single and two founders than three. I think the three founder equation is a lot harder than I think even a solo founder, just because I think most times when there's three founders, it's easy to build consensus and pockets of two against one, whether it's intentional or unintentional. It tends to happen very frequently. When you're a solo founder, you're forced to be resourceful and everyone's kind of a partner in the journey with you if you are coachable. And so we've seen a lot more challenges in three founders than we have in single or two founders.
That will conclude this installment of Investor Stories. If you're enjoying the program and would like to see it continue, take a moment and leave a 5-star review in iTunes. Okay, that will wrap things up for today. Until next time, over-prepare, choose carefully, and invest confidently. Thanks for joining me.